Supported by our co-host Beth Asia to make this happen. We are so honored to have Professor Diana Laurillard, Professor of Learning with Digital Technology at UCL Knowledge Lab, University College London, formerly head of the e-learning strategy unit at the Government Department for Education and Skill, Pro-Vice Chancellor Learning Technology and Teaching at the Open University. She is also leading the branded and online learning design course, free and open to all, on the Future Learn, one of the biggest global MOOC platforms. She also just received honorary fellow UCL, named as being in top 2% world scientists from Stanford University in January 2022. Today, she will share her vision and experience toward the social change trend related to the role of the Co-MOOC in shaping the future impact of higher education on UNSDGs. So everyone, please give a very warm welcome to our keynote speaker, Professor Diana Laurillard.
Hello, and may I start by thanking the organisers very much for this excellent opportunity to discuss some really critical issues of our time. I'm delighted to have this opportunity and take it to discuss the role of the Co-MOOC in shaping the future impact of higher education on the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So let me explain. The main idea I want to propose to you today is the role that MOOCs can play in the form of co-MOOCs, massive open online collaborations between professionals. Because with this kind of technology, higher education can potentially have a significant future impact on the social change foreseen by the UNSDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. Just think about the university's role in contributing to the SDGs. Take education as just one example, where it's the responsibility of higher education to develop the teachers we need. Some 68 million by 2030 was previously estimated. However, education underpins all of the other 16 SDGs as well. And universities have to educate the professionals whose job it is to achieve those goals, as students initially and then in lifelong learning, as they have to keep changing their policies, their practices, their actions as society changes. So why are MOOCs important here? Well, just think of the scale of those challenges, the vast numbers of professionals who have to update or redevelop their practice in the light of massive world events, health, the climate crisis, human displacement, just three of the major challenges we face, where professionals need the help and advice and guidance that comes from university research. So at the Thailand Cyber University, you know very well that we have the technology for this now. Your institution is built on that idea, and I'm thinking especially of MOOCs. Universities certainly do have the technology. My question is, do we also have the will to tackle this kind of digital solution to the grand challenges? Well, the mission statements of universities are certainly ambitious, such as this one from my own university, one of the top universities in the UK. We're engaged with the wider world and committed to changing it for the better, for the long-term benefit of humanity. That's our mission statement. And Thailand's top university, Chulalongkorn, is certainly matching us for the ambition, setting the standards as a university of innovations for society and focusing on three social development core principles: preparing future leaders, developing impactful research and innovation, and advocating social sustainability. And they're right to be ambitious because, unlike UCL, Chulalongkorn appears in the top 20 universities in the world in the THE rankings for impact on the UN SDGs. We come some 200 and something, I don't know what. So higher education certainly does have a critical impact on the world, and the pandemic has certainly shown that. But how well are we doing in the face of the already huge inequalities in our societies? Just look at this graph. It shows the peak income across the world is $5 a day, going up to $500 a day for very tiny numbers of people. So we have huge inequalities, and we're doing very little to really try to challenge that. So beyond our students, there's a wide range of professionals in many walks of life who need support in applying what university research is telling us about the best ways to tackle the immense scale and urgency of professional learning we now need. The conventional modes of university education won't work for this group. I'm talking about working professionals now. So I'm proposing a different model. It's just one simple contribution that HE can make to reducing inequalities, that is, to scale up the value and reach of our professional development activities. Well, I'm proposing that we need more collaboration between university and professional communities to be able to help them adapt quickly to the changing needs of society. But the question is, how might we organize the process of collaborative professional development? So I'm going to suggest 3 ways that we do it through Co-MOOCs, co-designed collaborative MOOCs, to enable participants to become part of the knowledge development process as they learn and work. Then a theory of change, which is based on studies of the Co-MOOCs that we've been developing for professional learning. And then the kind of Co-MOOC support that we need to offer for the collaborative development of teaching knowledge articulated as learning designs. That's how we share. Now, a theory of change for developing a Co-MOOC has, as we've developed it, 5 stages of engage, develop, extend, embed, and sustain progress over time. And it's important to have a theory of change if you're trying to make something happen differently in the world. And the foundational idea here is that we have to do this in collaboration with others, and that's why we call it a co-design approach. So the essence of each stage is to find a way to work collaboratively on professional innovation and to do it at scale. I'll illustrate each stage in terms of a Co-MOOC, one that we've developed in response to the pandemic, and this was to help teachers move into doing blended and online learning design. So the first engage stage in this case was to work with professional teachers, teacher volunteers who were already experienced in using digital methods and who could contribute video case studies of how they use digital methods themselves. Teachers taking this course will be most convinced by other teachers. This is the reason for doing this. And this video from this UCL academic showed how her lecture was linked to exercises with spreadsheets and data analysis. And that was just the kind of need that they had. They wanted to know exactly how to do this. But in many cases, the engage stage has to begin by finding out from the intended audience of the course what they think is really needed. And that's what we did in this example here from the community-based research MOOC, which was originating with colleagues in Lebanon. And for that, we worked in collaboration with NGOs in Lebanon who were already conducting community-based research on many topics, including, for example, the needs of refugee communities, which is where they were often based. So we could learn from them what the course needed to contain. Then at the develop stage, these video case studies were integrated into a FutureLearn MOOC, which enabled teachers to watch them, work on their own learning designs for the same kind of session, and then use discussion forums to exchange their own ways of adapting what they'd seen in the video case studies to their own teaching context. Because there are hundreds of different teaching and learning contexts among the participating teachers in a course like this. But each of them can localize and customize the general form of a learning design, so it becomes relevant to all of them. Then the extend stage runs the MOOC. And at this point, we discover how teachers in very different contexts are reacting to the ideas and methods being illustrated in the video case studies. So these are some of the participants who take up our invitation to apply to be mentors on the later runs of this course on online learning. And several of them keep coming back repeatedly. And as you can see, they're from many different parts of the world. And their role is to join in the conversations, to bring in their own diverse experiences and exchange them with the teachers who are already on the course and make their own contributions to the further development of the course. So we have this cyclical, iterative process of collaboration with teachers and with alumni. And what's remarkable in the discussions in this course is that although there's great variation in the resources and the capacity in different places in the world, there's great similarity almost also of commitment and determination to do their best for their students among these teachers. These courses do attract the most dynamic teachers, of course, but on the whole, therefore, they are going to be the vanguard of future innovation. And we do need to learn a lot from them, and that's what we can do in these discussions. So while the extend stage is important for scaling up, the embed stage is then vital for impact. If participants in the MOOCs don't change their practices as a result of the course, then there's no point. Not everyone has the skills to be a self-motivated learner, and so it's important that the professionals who are engaging with the MOOC share their knowledge with others who cannot. So one of our NGO partners, MAPS, in this case, created a hybrid course around the Co-MOOC to develop the skills of refugee students on their own higher education program. So the practical case studies and activities enabled the NGOs that we worked with to embed the Co-MOOC in the research training they offer their communities, and their communities are represented then in their own case studies. And it's important for those participants to see their own communities being represented. And finally, the sustain stage ensures the continuation of support for these new practices. So we had more than 20,000 participants in this course on online learning. And we know from the course reviews, you can see a couple here, that they have been seeding their own impact in many of those contexts. But sharing knowledge about community-based research is vital for our partner MAPS in Lebanon, the one I just mentioned, because university researchers often approach them wanting to do research on their community, but MAPS want to do that research themselves. They don't want others doing it for them. So using the Co-MOOC, they've now created their own community-based research center and take a more active role in these research relationships with the universities. And you can imagine, across all the Co-MOOC participants, there are many ways in which this local impact of the course multiplies up from the participants themselves to their communities, to their employees, in some cases, to their students and others. If we want national or global impact, we have to do that kind of scaling up. But we're also talking here about the collaborative development of knowledge. And for that, we need a way of sharing innovative teaching ideas across cultures, across countries, across disciplines. For teaching, we use our online tool, the Learning Designer, and the exercises in the course invite the participants to go through this process, which is highlighted here, to build on existing learning designs, adapt and test their own version, peer review to others, recommend good designs to the educated team, who then review it with a more challenging rubric, and then make the final revisions so it can be published on the curated design section of the website, which is shown here. So this is where there's a collection of the teacher's own contributions. So that's one of the ways in which we are enabling the whole community to build that new teaching knowledge. And the orchestration of that process needs this kind of collaborative MOOCs model for it to work at scale. It's not just for teachers, of course, this is for other professionals as well, but the model is being illustrated here for teachers. So we've been using the Learning Designer over the past year in a course that's running now on the FutureLearn platform on blended and online learning design. It's free and it's open to all teachers in all sectors, in all subject areas. So this is the link to enroll if you're interested. And you can do that at any time. And the course exercises are based around using the learning designer for teachers in all sectors, again, from university to primary. There's a wide variety of teachers in there. And they all explore and exchange ideas for good ways of supporting their learners using digital technology. So this is the link to the Learning Designer tool here, should you be interested, and you'll have access to these slides, of course. So I now want to give you a taste of how a co-MOOC like this works to orchestrate collaborative digital pedagogic knowledge, the development of that. So in week 1, the participants go through the basic pedagogical principles for thinking about blended learning, and then work through exercises to use the theory and start using the Learning Designer tool. They use it to share and collaborate on the new pedagogies we need. And the tool supports teachers by providing a structure for developing a sequence of learning activities, which looks like this. You can see basic information about the learning design and then a sequence of activities, each of which are made up of a series of steps. Or you can adapt an existing design, analyze what you create, and also share it with other teachers. So the idea is that this tool can turn the learning design process from something which is done by the individual teacher innovating alone into a teacher as a design scientist, contributing to a whole community of knowledge development about digital pedagogies. This is a learning design for teaching online. So this is on the designer screen of the tool now. And it's like those that many of us will have used during the pandemic, this kind of design probably. So suppose you looked at this design on the tool and decided that you wanted to adapt it for your own context. Well, the first step is to turn editing on. And now in edit mode, the design is yours to adapt as you wish. And you can see all the editing tools available. You can change the mode of design from online to blended. So you change that here, and then you want to make a number of other changes to match that. So you could add a new teaching and learning activity, for example. We've got 3 here. We might want to add another one, maybe one that they do collaboratively in class or one that they do individually at home, many different options. And then in the drop-down menu here, for each step, you can change the learning type which is associated with that activity, choosing between learning through acquisition or through more active learning types of discussion, practice, inquiry, collaboration, and production. Then you can add a new learning type to a particular activity as a way of adapting it to your own context, for example. Maybe you want another practice activity in here, for example. And you can change the duration of the activity. So all these little symbols along here are changing the duration. This is 10 minutes. The group size, this is 1. All these are 1, but then this is 25. So that signifies that's the whole group or it's individual. Whether the teacher is present or not, no, they're not there, but yes, they are there. Is it online? Yes, all those are. And then you can also add resources by clicking this and attaching a resource. And the color coding, all these different colors for different learning types, then gives you a sense of the pattern of the different learning types that you're using. You can also go to the analysis tab at any point to check on the overall design of the learning experience you've created with your design in terms of the proportion of learning types. We can see we've got a lot of learning through acquisition here. It's quite well balanced by discussion, but we might want to go back and change that. Deciding on a better balance. And you can see that this is wholly online. The teacher is there for about 1/3 of the time, is present. About 1/3 of it also is synchronous and the rest is asynchronous. And the green bar shows us this is all individual learning, a bit of group learning, and a bit of whole class learning. So that feedback on what you've done helps you decide if this is a well-balanced session or if you want to make some changes. But there are no rules. The balance is entirely up to you. So this is the way a teacher can explore and experiment and see what a particular learning design feels like before trying it out with their students. Then you can export it to Moodle. So the students don't see the learning designer, they see what you export to your VLE as the basis for what you create for students there. this is what it looks like if you print it out and export it to Word and you want to maybe share it with your colleagues, for example. But the point of all this is to give teachers the means to represent and share their pedagogic ideas and to learn from other teachers as well. So it's a way of giving voice to teachers' own innovations. It's not just a private process. Teachers should be sharing their good ideas. Then in this step in week 2, the participants look at the principles for good design and then at a learning design which is aiming to help students learn to explain a complex concept. Now, this example they're given is a learning design about the concept in physics of the water cycle. But they have to adapt that design to their own topic or sector and share it on a Padlet wall here. And I'll expand this so you can see the range of concepts they adapt it to learning about the concept of a digital mixing desk, planet conservation, conjugating regular and irregular verbs, child development. I mean, the range of topics is amazing. But what's being shared is the pedagogic design. Of course, we do that in education. We all share the idea of lectures and tutorials and practicals and essays and group work and so on. I mean, we're used to sharing pedagogies, but this is quite detailed representation of what you want students to do to really master the ideas or master the skill. So the pie charts that they create are pretty similar. They've changed it a bit, but not completely. So this is the beginning of sharing to collaborate. This is how we learn from the ideas and practices of other professionals as well as from the research itself. And for other subject areas, you share your ideas in ways appropriate to them. For renewable energy, Co-MOOC, for example, we use social media tools, all good ways of collaborating and doing a word cloud here on what's their most important vision for what renewable energy means to their community. And the exercises in these courses enable the professionals to work together, sharing the ideas. So the contributions come from them, going beyond the research lab into the field and then back again to the research lab. So we hear about what they're doing. Well, could this model work for you in your professional development context, do you think? It would be interesting to know. So here's that simple expression of the idea that universal lifelong learning should embrace professional education for people working in all the SDGs, all of whom would benefit from access to the key research findings and techniques we're producing in higher education. So to summarize, none of this would be possible without the technology, of course. And the conference organizers gave us a very challenging brief in social change and the future of MOOCs, but such an important one. I focused on professional development because for our students, it's crucial that we learn how to make the most of the technologies we now have as we're learning to teach them in this way. And that's a huge challenge for university teachers. We have to do this together, as I've tried to illustrate, just as we do in all forms of science and scholarship. So using Co-MOOCs, we can develop the professional knowledge we need about how to teach online, and then use Co-MOOCs to develop new professional knowledge and practices across all the domains of the SDGs. So Co-MOOCs have a key role to play in social change via professional development and lifelong learning. That's my thesis. That's what I wanted to present to you, and I very much look forward to our discussion. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you so much, Professor Laurillard. It was very impressive. We certainly see the importance of Co-MOOCs. And not only me, the participants, they have several questions for you. Let me bring up first question. Professor Diana, as you have talked about the role of Co-MOOC, so I just want to know what is the role of the teachers in shaping the future impact as well? Do they have anything to do with this? So this is first question, please.
Thank you. And again, thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm looking forward to this. They're all going to be challenging questions, I'm sure. But yes, that is rather the point, is to give teachers themselves a voice. And so a Co-MOOC, being collaborative with the teachers, gives them the opportunity to share their own ideas, and in the course of the MOOC, to be sharing ideas with other teachers. And they really respond to that opportunity as well. If you look at the discussions, they get very excited about being able to see what other people are also saying. So that's one of the ways in which they contribute. Also having, in the context of teacher professional development, a tool like the Learning Designer, where they can express their pedagogy, their own pedagogy that they're trying out, and share that with other teachers. That's another way. So these are very important ways for the teachers to be engaged in the Co-MOOC process in the way that we design it in the first place, and that's using their own case studies and workshopping how it should be developed, but also then in the way that it's run with the tens of thousands of teachers who join in, they all have a voice. So that's really what's exciting about it, I think, is that it does bring the teachers closely into this process of learning from each other, developing knowledge together.
Oh, wow. I totally agree with you. So let's move on to the second question. What is or what are the most challenging obstacles you had so far? And, let me say again. What is or what are the most challenging obstacles that you had and overcame so far regarding Co-MOOCs?
Well, the strange thing is that it's remarkably difficult to convince education leaders of the importance of this kind of approach. I see your nods of recognition there. For the teachers themselves, 10 or 20 years ago, teachers were very doubtful about new technology because they hadn't experienced it very much. But by now, in 2022, all teachers are very familiar with it, and especially after 2 years of the pandemic when they had to become familiar. So their perceptions of what digital technology has to offer has changed a lot. So teachers are not an obstacle at all, whereas 20 years ago they may have been. But now, it's the education leaders and managers who don't really understand how to think digital as well as they should, because they're very focused on the campus, for example, in the way that the campus is scheduled, organized and run and financed and so on. And they don't really understand the potential of what we can do with this extraordinary new opportunity. So we have to do quite a lot of persuasion and education. And I think one of the ways in which we do that is to just do it. So when we set up one of our MOOCs during the pandemic, we had no funding for it. It was just, we were doing it in our own time, volunteering time, and all the teachers who helped us and contributed their case studies did the same. And with that data that we now have, we have the means to go to the education leaders, to people who are running the university, and even also, of course, to the finance people, because it's a very good return on the cost of development. The upfront cost is the cost of professors making this, that's quite costly. But then it costs the same to run it for 10 or 20 teachers as it does for 10 or 20,000 teachers. That's what's interesting about it. So being able to scale up and bring millions of people ultimately into this process is what I think I find exciting, what I'm sure the Thailand Cyber University finds exciting as well.
Wow, I think somehow we also having the same kind of obstacles.
Right.
So whatever you just said means a lot to us.
It's universal, honestly.
Yes. Oh, well, today we have learned a lot from you. So thank you so much. And hopefully next time, instead of presenting online, we can have you here so we can really learn more from you. So today it has been wonderful. Please take care and see you again next time. สวัสดีครับ
Thank you so